and welcome back on today's news. Today we're actually post-op of Hurricane Milton, and we do have current trees and bushes everywhere, but everything seems to be okay in my neighborhood. We should be okay. I pray for everyone else around. But on today's topic, we'll be talking about how addiction is either a medical disease or a moral defect.
Addiction is when a person has a strong physical or psychological need or urge to do something or use something. When a person associates themselves with substance use and abuse, it ultimately creates a vicious cycle that they fall under, causing a number of problems. Substance use is a behavior that is socially discredited, causing there to be more of a negative attitude toward those individuals. The article Q, Is Addiction a Brain Disease or a Moral Failing? A. Neater by Nick Heather has been provided to us today to discuss a deep understanding of the topic. In this article, they discuss the brain disease model of addiction and the public's understanding of the concept of addiction as a whole. It also dives into Mark Lewis's third stage in the image of addiction. In Lewis' analysis, it shows different claims in the way members of the general public might come back to the stigma society attaches to addicts, but also talks about a claim where that idea is rejected and promotes the idea that addiction goes to show moral failings on their part. As stated in the article, however, the more common view is that drug addicts are weak or bad people, unwilling to lead moral lives and control their behavior and gratifications.
They're both two different diseases. Your medical disease, you could be prescribed pain meds for your chronic pain, but yet continue on with your daily life, like your functional narcotics user. When then your moral disease is you have your people that are just drug users and cannot maintain a lifestyle. That's all they do is have drugs and constantly in a state of not normalcy. So it kind of all depends on your situation, I would have to say.
The implications of this line is that addiction, being a moral defect, means that it is something brought upon themselves as a thought, a punishment from voluntary behaviors. If they go off this thought, an explanation of how a good person can behave badly can be associated to this or an inner demon that the hero must win before it takes over. According to Alan Leshner, he wrote, as just one example, there are many people who believe that addicted individuals do not even deserve treatment. This stigma and the underlying moralistic tone is a significant overlay on all decisions. People are influenced simply by what they know and decide to label addiction as a choice or habit, rather than what it truly is, a chronic treatable disease.
I would say addiction is a medical disease because once you become addicted, it requires help to get off of whatever substance you become addicted to, and that requires some sort of medical help, either therapy, rehab, but it does require additional professional medical help.
As we can see here, moral defect is what individuals tend to lead towards when this topic is brought to one's attention. This logic, of course, still applies, but simply assuming that individuals sought out to be addicts is wrong as well. Addiction doesn't necessarily happen overnight. For many, it could start as someone taking a drink for the first time voluntarily, believing they can control the use. With time, more and more of said drink might be needed for them to feel the same level of pleasure or satisfaction. Trying to actively find and take these substances becomes a constant thing, starting to cause issues between friends or family. When this occurs, the person can no longer choose to not take the substance voluntarily, leading them to be addicted. The constant need for it becomes too much, but it is what their brain is telling them to do, because it has gotten used to the impact the substance has on it. Overall, it can be clearly decided on whether addiction falls under medical disease or moral defect. Both sides have quite the amount of extensive research accumulated to show factors that do contribute to a person being addicted, but not entirely to decide which is correct.
It's a mental stability issue because many people can do the same thing, drugs, alcohol, what have you, and not have the addiction, but other people can off of 1 or 2 drinks and they can't stop it. Once they start, they can't stop, but another person can drink just as much and they never drink again, or drugs or whatever.
Think it's onset by pressures in society, anything like that?
Pressures in society can bring on a lot of stress and anxiety, and then it may become uncontrollable because your body's chemicals get altered through stress.
According to Nicole L. Henderson and William W. Dresser, studies have shown that the social stigma around addiction creates a vicious cycle that may discourage addicts from seeking proper treatment. Research was carried out in 3 parts that all build off of each other. In Phase 1, a group of undergraduates were asked to generate a list of terms to describe the etiology, which is the study of causes or reasons behind the way things are or how they function, of addiction. A lack of money, low self-esteem, loneliness, and to rebel against a parent or authority were all included in the final list. During Phase 2, constant pal sort interviews were conducted using the list of terms from Phase 1. Each term was written in an index card, which were then randomized and shown to the participants. The participants were told each term was a potential cause of addiction. The participants then had to sort the cards in similar piles. They were asked to label and explain the reasoning behind each grouping. In Phase 3, participants were asked to rate each of the previously mentioned causes of addiction by level of importance. The self-medication theme was highly favored by one group. The article says this group has a tendency to view addiction risk primarily in medical terms. The other group emphasizes the social causes while downplaying the self-medication causes. This group represents a moral center. In summary, these results show the framing of addiction as a failure of genetics that continue to coexist uneasily with behavioral interpretations. Some examples of this include peer pressure and the failure of willpower. People do not tend to view addiction as solely originating from one set of causes.
On that note, thank you on today's news. We'll update you on more on any new occurring topics.